Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at Friskies.com or visit your local store.
The Rev and the Rabbi. Entertaining and informative. On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Good morning. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
Reverend, I saw an inscription on a monument at a cemetery which said, "Death may conquer life, but it does not conquer love." This is a week in which we see that to be so as we recall lives that were lost on that day and since that day. And to talk about what September 11th means this year are two very special people in New York and I think in America. Firstly, the 32nd Commissioner of FDNY, the Fire Department of New York, the Honorable Salvatore Cassano. The 35th current Commissioner of New York as well, Robert S. Tucker. Honorable too. Thank you both for being on the program.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Reverend.
So let me begin with Commissioner Cassano. You were very instrumental in rebuilding a department after the tragedy. You went through much. You lost many. Where'd you find the strength?
Well, it's a question I'm often asked. And first of all, you have to have faith. You have to believe in something. And you have to believe that there's a reason why you are here and you have a purpose. And with having said that, you know, the FDNY was always the premier fire department in the world. Certainly people from all over the country looked up to us. And on September 11th, when we lost 343 of our members, it was something that we owed not only to them and their families, but to the city and the country that looked up to us to ensure that we rebuilt. And we had a great team in place. We were together from September 11th until I retired in 2014, who gave a lot, who really gave a lot, and gave a lot of time away from their families to ensure that we not only rebuilt the department, we made it stronger, we made it better prepared, we made it better equipped, and we made it better trained. And every one of our families sacrificed a lot along that road for us because many days we weren't home. We were at the beck and call of whatever came our way. And it was believe me, it was a labor of love, but it took a lot of our families and our members to get us through it. And we owed it to the families that we lost and the members that we lost.
Commissioner Tucker, I've been with you many times, and inevitably you mention Commissioner Cassano in your remarks when you see him at a ceremony. What does he mean to you? What does he mean to the department?
Well, look, he's iconic. I mean, he's part of the fabric of the FDNY, not just because he served as the fire commissioner, but it's really his service before that, which is such a dynamic part of the rebuilding of the greatest fire department in the world.
Rev?
No, I'm thinking, gentlemen, this year will mark the 24th anniversary. A quarter of a century next year will have passed. And why is it still important for us to honor the memory, to celebrate, to have anniversaries 25 years later almost?
Well, I'll step in and I'll let Commissioner Tucker, finish up my remarks because he's there. He's doing a great job. He understands the tradition and the importance. But, on September 11th, this Thursday, we're going to be down at the World Trade Center. It'll be 24 years later, and there'll be hundreds and hundreds of our families that are there. And the message that we show them by being there is to say, your sacrifice, your loved one's sacrifice was not in vain. And, the buzzword 24 years ago was never forget. Well, it's never been more true in the FDNY that we will never forget. This will be at the 24th anniversary, 25th, the 50th anniversary. It was such an important event in the history of the FDNY that we have to make sure that the people that were affected so dearly, like we all were, know that we will not forget their sacrifice from them and their loved ones.
Yeah, I think honoring the human cost is so important. We're talking about, nearly 3,000 lives that were lost that day. You gave the exact number, but I think remembering is an act of dignity and respect because, and I guess you talk to these families, Commissioner Cassano, and they understand that they are symbols of sacrifice woven into the city's identity right now
No,
and out into the
absolutely.
future. Hmm.
Absolutely. And it's important that we let them know that, I've heard Commissioner Tucker talk at a funeral to say, we're here for you. We're here for you today. We're here for you tomorrow. We're here for you forever. And it's never more true than on the anniversary of September 11th for those families. And we've lost over 400 members since September 11th because of their work at the World Trade Center. I was down there every day, every night. I saw the members toiling, and not one person says, I wish I wasn't here. They wanted to be there 24/7 because they knew they had a mission. Unfortunately, we're paying for it dearly every week, and Commissioner Tucker can talk about it even more than I can now because he's going
I'm so
through
glad
these
you
funerals.
mentioned. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Sal, because that's obviously something that we're living every single day today in 2025. Still, obviously, the 343 members that perished on that morning, we will never forget them. I have a poster of all of their pictures on my wall right when you walk into my office, and it's the first thing I see when I walk into my office every single morning. But it's the toll it has taken on the members who participated in the rescue and recovery that is so daunting. We're losing firefighters and members of this department every day to cancer related to the 9/11 recovery, and we are not going to forget their sacrifice either.
Yeah. Would you both address, when we say we will never forget, what does that translate into in different actions? I've seen firefighters attend graduations of children who were born and never knew their dad. Firefighters who take individuals to their medical appointments. What does it mean when you say we won't forget? It's not just
Rabbi,
a mantra.
We had one of the most befitting tributes to a young bride last week. I was asked if we would send apparatus from Rescue One to be outside of a hotel where a wedding was about to start, and a bride and a groom were about to be taken to a church. And we had members of Rescue One and the apparatus there. Her father perished from 9/11 illness, and to be honest with you, that got a lot of publicity. Plenty of things we do like that every day don't. But when I think of never forget, it's the families who are around all the time. It's our family assistance unit, which works so tirelessly to transport the families of the fallen and sick to the hospital and to doctor's appointments. There's so much internal apparatus set up and designed to support the words we will never forget.
Yeah.
You say that, and memory binds communities together because New Yorkers who lived through the smoke, the sirens, the rubble, Uh, I remember that day distinctly because we gathered a team of administrators to start calling all of the families in our congregation that we knew either lived or worked in the area to find out who was okay and who wasn't. And we lost several of our members who were in the towers at the time. But it creates an unbreakable bond between the individuals who walked through it, who experienced it. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. It's inevitable, especially around this time of the year. Well, I will meet somebody, and they will start to talk about September 11th, and they'll tell me exactly where they were, exactly what they were doing, exactly what they did after that, and then it gets back to the firefighters and police officers and EMTs and paramedics, and how really appreciative of the work that they did on that day. But everybody has to relive their own experience. This is an emotional time of the year for all of us. Very emotional.
We're going to take a break here. We're going to come back with more discussion with commissioners of FDNY, Sal Cassano, Robert Tucker.
Stay tuned.
The Rev and the Rabbi on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rev and the Rabbi. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
Reverend, I know you have another question.
Yeah, I wanted to just switch gears for a moment because we talked about, the importance of preserving the collective memory around this, the human cost. But also, gentlemen, I'd like you to speak to this. 9/11 wasn't just an act of destruction, but it revealed extraordinary resilience. New Yorkers came together across neighborhoods, races, religions. You know, all of our differences were put aside, and we became one people facing an incredible event. Can you speak to the resilience that was revealed uh, through the 9/11?
Well, I remember every time I made my way down West Street to get into the World Trade Center site. It started way past Chambers Street. It didn't matter whether it was 9 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock at night or 3 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon. There were people lined up on the West Side Highway with flags, with banners. We love you, FDNY. We love you, NYPD. We love the United States. We love the USA. And I can't tell you how uplifting that was for not only me, but for our members that were reporting in at different times, for them to see that the support that we had after the worst event on soil of the United States of America, that New Yorkers were coming together. And it wasn't only New Yorkers. There were people from all over, I'm not even going to say over the country, but all over the world that were coming down to support us. And it was a tremendous, tremendous uplifting experience for everybody, because everybody was working extremely long hours, very arduous work, and then they would go home, and then they would come back as soon as they could. And the patriotism and the support that we received is something that really got us through the darkest days of our department.
You know, Commissioner Cassano and Commissioner Tucker, both of you in your respective positions are involved with facing challenges. Obviously, Commissioner Cassano, what you faced is extraordinary in terms of the depth of rebuilding a department. How does one do that? How do you rebuild a department? And Commissioner Tucker, you also come into a department and you face challenges. So let's hear from Commissioner Cassano, then Commissioner Tucker.
Well, the first thing we did, and we ended up on January 1st getting, Mayor Bloomberg, and he appointed Commissioner Nick Scarpetta. And the first thing that we had to do was build a good team, because we were devastated, we were decimated, and as a good manager, Commissioner Scarpetta knew that we had to build up from the top first and put a team together that would ensure that everything we had to do as a department was coordinated, was well thought out. And again, we were facing a budgetary crisis of unknown proportions at that time. And we had to close companies in the fire department. Imagine closing fire companies after you lost 343 members. And we had to do that. We had to close 6 fire companies. And it was devastating. And it was amazing how everybody stepped up to say, and I remember people coming up to me in the middle of the night at the World Trade Center, Sal, whatever you need, I will do. And they knew once they said that they were in for the long haul, and we put together a great team of officers, of staff chiefs, and together, in a coordinated effort, we rebuilt the department. We would have never been able to do it without the support of the mayor, without the support of Congressman King, who got millions and millions of dollars of governmental funding to help us to rebuild. So it took a huge effort on many people's parts, but I really have to credit the staff that we put together for giving up so much of their time to help us to rebuild. And I think Commissioner Tucker can tell you a lot of things have been in place. You have to tweak things, but for the most part, it took a lot of years to rebuild it, but we did it.
Mr. Tucker, you stand on their shoulders, but you also, had to write a new chapter.
Yeah, no doubt. But I mean, we do stand on the shoulders of the very able staff that Commissioner Cassano was a part of and then led. They act as mentors to us all every single day. There are plenty of challenges for the FDNY today. They are quite different than the challenge that we are speaking about, but nevertheless, challenges. As an outsider who did not come up through the ranks of the department, I rely heavily on the uniform staff, command staff that I've assembled. I think we have a very good yin and yang going, where I act more like the CEO of the fire department, and I stay out of their way in terms of running the jobs themselves. I like to say I run the department, they run the job, and I think it's working very effectively, as is our ability to address challenges together with my experience from the private sector and their experience in the firehouse and at EMS stations all over New York City.
Yeah, I'd like to ask both of you, because it's not just the solidarity around grief and the pain and trauma that was experienced, but also and I need you guys to speak to this. Has there been an increased desire to become a firefighter or first responder? Have you seen an influx of individuals saying, this job is dangerous, look at the loss, but I want to be one of them? This is where I need to be.
Yeah, we have a tremendous, thanks for that question, incidentally, it's a great one. We have a tremendous number of people who want to be New York City firefighters. Interestingly, the next 1,500 or so New York City firefighters will come from the ranks of our emergency medical service, which is a process that was started prior to my becoming commissioner. But after 4 years of being an EMT or a paramedic, you're able to promote into the fire operations side. No shortage of people interested in that. We have a very large class, the largest ever, in probationary fire school at the academy right now. They'll graduate this month, and we're excited about that. No shortage of people wanting to be the heroes of the FDNY.
Right, and it's not an easy process either. It takes 4 years, or how does it work? Explain that to us.
It's a civil service
become a firefighter.
process. Yeah, it's a civil service process. There are now multiple paths to becoming a firefighter. One path is to join the emergency medical service and promote up. One path is to be a fire dispatcher and promote up. One path is to be a fire prevention inspector and promote up. And one path is to straight up take the test, pass it, and wait. We have people in the fire academy right now who waited more than 7 years to get into the FDNY. and they're doing great in the academy, and they're going to be awesome firefighters. Where we need help on the recruiting side is at EMS. You know, the EMTs and paramedics in the FDNY are the greatest in the world. They are hardworking, dedicated professionals. They respond to 1.6 million calls for service a year. That is a daunting amount of work, and they are to be respected and looked up to.
You know what I find remarkable, we've come to just about the end of the interview, is that people who lost loved ones 9/11, after 9/11, want to walk in their footsteps and become firefighters, become members of EMS. That is the way they pay back, by paying forward.
Yeah.
I will tell you a story that's probably never going to be repeated any place. The Saro children. We lost Carl Saro from 54 engine, and his 4 children are now New York City firefighters.
Wow.
Where do you see that any place?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just was at an event with his daughter. She's helping out at the World Trade Center Memorial Museum, and realized that all 4 of the children were on, and they're all proud to be New York City firefighters. It's amazing. Where do you see that kind of devotion and love?
Yeah.
Right.
I just want to say to both of you, I've been chaplain with FDNY for some 25 years. Reverend Bernard is an honorary chaplain, and I don't think there's any greater honor than to work with FDNY in any capacity, because you're dealing with extraordinary human beings who don't want the recognition, but just want to do what they can to help others live. It's not enough to live and let live. They want to help, and help live. So thank you both. And you, Commissioner Cassano, since you were given the last rites during that period, it's nice to have you with us.
Thank God I'm still here. Whatever he did right.
Cardinal Egan, offering last rites. You said, stop, I'm okay. I'm okay, stop right now. All right, Commissioner Tucker, we love you. We love you, Commissioner Cassano, and we're just honored to be part of your extended family.
Thank you very much for remembering.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the program. And thank you, our listeners. We'll be back with more of The Rev and the Rabbi right here on Red Apple Radio Network.
The Rev and the Rabbi on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rev and the Rabbi. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joe Spotosnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard. Good conversation there, Rabbi.
You and I have interviewed many people over the years, but these two, and the way they respect each other, the younger, the older, and they learn and listen to each other. So it's nice to have someone you can look back and say, look at what you went through. What advice would you give me? And it's nice for the older person to say, tell me what you're doing and how can I help you? So the continuity is there.
Well, I don't know if this has been done before, where you have the former and the current commissioners of FDNY on the same program talking together about what they do in response to 9/11 celebration and anniversary. I think we hit a first here, Rabbi.
Yeah. The word that kept coming up in my mind was legacy. What does it mean to perpetuate a legacy? And when you hear of people who want to, I want to be just like you, Dad, the words of the song, of people who walked in the footsteps and said, I lost a loved one, but I want to perpetuate that legacy by becoming the person and serving the people and doing what I can to save lives. That's a tremendous commitment.
Yeah, I think it's important that we remember that we continue these celebrations, because it honors the sacrifice, it preserves memory, recognizes the resilience, as I asked the question to them, and it really teaches future generations of what we've been through. And in a very divided time in our nation, it reminds us of how unity is the response to crisis.
Yeah.
And boy, were we united around responding to the reality of 9/11.
Sadly, throughout history, crisis unites us, but not permanently,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You find
yeah.
very often people come together. There is the crisis of the moment, and then when that dissipates, somehow we become apart from one another than a part of one another.
Well,
So,
before we switch subject matter, Rabbi, you and I are two clerics. And so, what's the theological dimension? What's the theological perspective on 9/11?
after asking where was God, which many did, I
Hmm.
guess the follow up question is, and where were we? What are we doing to help those who lost their lives and their families? I remember officiating at a wedding. It was the Lehrfeld family, and Eric lost his life on September 11th. And I bat mitzvahed his daughter years later. She never met her dad. Her mom was pregnant with her during that tragic period. So she had pictures of her father at the bat mitzvah, but she never knew him. So I knew him and I knew his parents, but wow, imagine there you are. It's a major celebration of life. And usually the parents are there with you, and a parent that you never knew is there with you in picture only. But I think the message also is for us is we don't stop living and don't stop loving. We have to continue to have the celebrations. I mean, the best repudiation of those who hate us is to show that we can love one another. That's what they don't want to see, and that's what would need to be seen.
I think of the fact that, memory is sacred because it keeps alive the cry for justice, healing, and reconciliation. I think about in the Genesis text where God says to Cain, the cry of your brother's blood comes from the ground. I don't know how it is in your,
You're saying,
but yeah, it's a cry for justice. It's a cry, that some injury has taken place, and how is that going to impact humanity? What's going to be the response? How do you and your tradition look at that text?
same thing, that because the blood cries out to us, the blood is crying out and asking, and what are you going to do? What are you going to
Right.
do to make it better? What are you going to do to prevent these tragedies? What is your responsibility? We often say not all are guilty, but all are responsible. We all have to ask ourselves from our moral traditions, our faith traditions, what is expected of us? And obviously, you can't just say, there's nothing I can do. There is something you can do. You can reach out, obviously, to those who are hurting and try to help them. You can go to a firehouse or a police station and say, thank you. Just thank you. Words of gratitude. Things that we often take for granted should not be taken for granted.
Right. Right.
So I think, that's the response that we have. One of the things I find very touching is when you go to Ground Zero, you'll see people who put their fingers on the stone there over the name of a loved one that's been taken, and then they kiss
Right.
their fingers. And I think of, you go to the cemetery and you put your hand on the stone, kiss your hand. For many people, Ground Zero is the cemetery because they never found the remains of their loved ones.
That's true. Didn't think about that. That's a very, very good point. Now, of course, tomorrow there's going to be a special celebration down at the memorial, remembering the papal visit. Remember, you and I attended a gathering of interfaith gathering of clergy, and Pope Francis was there. We had a service and a dinner and whatnot, and there will be another remembrance of that visit around 9/11 as well tomorrow. So it's interesting. One of the many remembrance celebrations that will be taking place throughout the week ahead of us.
It just strengthens the thinking that we will remember, we won't forget. I know sometimes that people say that, and they may say it, somewhat casually or not with full heart, but what happened on September 11th was not forgotten, and the people were remembered. When you go to the site on September the 11th, as many will go this week, you just have to go over and hug somebody. You don't even have to say anything, but just they know you're there and you remember them. I get text messages from people I've known over the years who lost loved ones on September 11th, all the memorial services that we all attended. It's good to know that we still have a place for them in our hearts, and we carry their memory wherever we go.
How do you respond to this? Because in a sense, memory is not just nostalgia, but moral ability. It's not just reflecting on what happened, but it demands of us morally. Would you say?
It does. Morality is not just a word. Morality comes with responsibility. If you really have a moral code, as all of us do in our respective traditions, then you have to ask, what must I do? And come up with an answer. I think in hospitals, I've been to many hospitals visiting people over the years, and you meet volunteers, and they tell me the story, well, I'm doing this because I love someone who died, and I want to keep his memory or her memory alive by doing something. So it's not just talking about a person, although it's good to talk about a person, but I think what means the most is something that you concretize into your daily life.
And that's important. I was at a conference this past week speaking to a gathering of Latino evangelical pastors and leaders from across the country, Central America, South America. And, they asked questions. It was a Q&A moment. And we talked about homiletics, the art of preaching. And I said to them, every message, whether it's in the house of worship or on some other platform. You and I have, been on political platforms, social platforms, etc. But I want to do three things. I want to educate the mind, stir the heart, and motivate the will. I want to give the intellect something to grasp, something new, something fresh, right? But I want to make an emotional connection. And at the end of those two things, the third thing, I want people to feel, hey, I got to do something with what I just heard. It's not enough for me to sit here and say, that was a great sermon, but I've got to do something. What do you say, Rabbi?
I have often said this is why we have windows in houses of worship. You want to see the outside because you're going to walk out of here. And as someone explained to me, service to God begins when you leave the sanctuary. Because it's what you do out there that really determines how sincere you were in there. Sanctuary and street, there's got to be a connection. So yeah, you're right. It's inspiring people not just to listen, but to do. And that's why we have the word mitzvah. Mitzvah is it's an action. It's a commandment. Right. You have to do something. So, all right. This has been a very, very moving
great
conversation.
Segment.
Yeah. But we're not leaving.
We've got one more to go,
absolutely.
Don't we? We have one more.
We're going to come back.
So, stay tuned for more of The Rev and the Rabbi.
The Rev and the Rabbi on the Red Apple Podcast Network.